Hi guys, I'm with the dogs here at the stables. I just switched this on and the sun just came out. Wow, unbelievable. The whole morning it's been grey and I just switched this on. Wow, so that's an omen. That's an omen. This is a new jacket that my daughter gave me. I went to see her yesterday. She got me a few clothes, food and stuff. It was really nice of her. I thought, wow, kind of, like overwhelmed that somebody, well, not somebody, my daughter gave me something. But yeah, somebody, because nobody gives me anything. I mean, my wife, she's bought me one of those, which one was it? The Kickers kind of coat, whatever it is. That puffer jacket, that's huge. And she got that from like a charity shop. And my friend got something from a charity shop, which I really appreciate. I was just thinking the other day, what was it? Is it today or is it yesterday? This morning or yesterday, I was just thinking all the clothes that I have, women bought them for me. So I must feel, it's all from the charity shops usually. I must be a charity case. And I'm grateful that I've got people that, care about me and love me, maybe in their own way, I don't know. But care enough to buy things for me. I always go on and complain about it's difficult, somebody says, Gerald, why are you calling her your wife if she's divorcing from you? She's the one who initiated divorce. Even if it's you are divorced, right? I know, but if you live with that person for 18 to 20 years, you called her your wife, and you're still living with that person, and there's just a piece of paper that says, you're not husband and wife anymore. It's hard not to call her, so it's hard to call her my ex-wife, because we're still living in the same house. If I was living elsewhere and there was some period of time away, then I can call her my ex-wife. I don't know. Or if I found somebody else, and then I can say this one is my partner, my girlfriend, or whatever, my woman. I wonder if you can say that anymore. She's my woman. She's my lady, whatever. You don't own me. What do you mean yours? They might not say that, but they might think that. Who does he think he is? Your woman? I'm my own woman. What the fuck's wrong with this guy? Get the fuck out of it. I don't know. I'll probably end up with some clapped out old banger anyway. In the 60s or 70s or 80s. I wonder if there's any fit 80-year-olds. Because their standards will be lower, right? If you look for a 40-year-old, 30-year-old woman, they have higher standards, right? The older you get, the standards go lower. Like, so a 30-year-old would want this. A 20-year-old is like through the ceiling. Like, there's no way you can qualify. Like 30-year-old is about here, then 40 is still difficult, 50 is about here. Yeah, you can, like 60, 70, yeah, it's dead easy. I suppose, as you get older, you mature as well. I don't know. I really don't know. I've never met an older woman. I never thought about going with an older woman. No way. But that's how we've been programmed. We've been programmed to think. Older women. No. Hey, I've actually got a theory, right? Some women, mostly women, some men, or some like manginas will say this as well. They'll say, "Why are you looking for a younger woman?" That's like sexist. Why shouldn't women go for younger men as well? Some blokes might actually say that. Those lefties probably those woke ones, right? Gerard, you're not making sense this morning. Hang on, I'll tell you in a minute. My theory. It's actually an evolutionary sound theory. Why? What? You haven't explained anything. What's your theory? Hang on. Let me just. I don't do things in order anyway. So, it's okay for older women to go with a young woman, right? It might not be politically correct, but it's biologically and evolutionary correct. So, like, if there are wars and young men go out and fight and die, the older men won't go out. Usually won't go out and fight. So you have the older men left over to procreate the race, to continue the race. Like, it sounds funny and like cringy, but women can't produce offspring by themselves. They're not androgynous, they can't. They don't have male and female parts. So the only male parts would be the old, the old geezer, the old farts. And old farts can still produce substances that generative fluid, yeah. So they can still reproduce. So what am I saying? I suppose a 90-year-old, even up to 90 or 100 or whatever, a man can still is still sorry. It's still important for evolutionary purposes. Whereas a woman isn't when it comes to reproduction, because I'm not saying women are not important. Of course I'm not. I'm saying when it comes to reproduction. So women get their perimenopause, like that's when they stop doing it, like in their 40s, 50s or whatever. And menopause, that's it, through no fault of their own, don't blame me. It's Mother Nature, that good old Mother Nature, right? And Mother Nature's a woman as well, right? So you blame her. But from the age of, let's say, I don't know, when they have their period, like 12 to 40, let's say 45, 50, right? Those are their reproduction years, but really it's like 18 to 28, something like that, 30, like 20 to 30 really. Then it becomes dangerous for a woman to go through the process of pregnancy. It's quite hard on the woman's body. Well, it can be really hard, can be dangerous. Women used to die in childbirth. There are ways around it, but it's still, a woman still should try and have a baby as early as possible. Not as early as possible, after the age of 20, let's say. Right, so you've got women who are having children at the ages of, let's say, 20 to 30 to 40, let's say, okay? Let's say 50, right? 20 to 50. But you've got men that can have children. They don't have children, but they can inseminate or like play a part in the reproduction or the procreation, the extension of the race, right? Till they're about 100, from about like the age of like 9, 10 till about like they've got 90 years if they live that long or more of inseminated. They can. I mean, so an older man, like an older man in his 40s, 50s, or even 60s, 70s, or whatever, it's like evolution has said, yeah, it's okay for an older man to be with a younger woman, like a 20, 30-year-old, because both can procreate. Whereas, so the political response, the politically correct response would be, right, if I said, oh yeah, I like younger women, I'm nearly 60 and I'd like to have a nice 25-year-old, 45-year-old woman or whatever. You bastard. Yeah, I've been called that. Well, I said, 35, 40. And like one clapped out old banger, a woman like with wrinkles and everything. She's only in her 40s. She was saying, you're a fucking pervert. I couldn't believe it. An American woman. Couldn't believe it. How am I a pervert? I'm not talking about like a 10-year-old. I'm talking about a 35-year-old. And I'm a pervert. But if it was the other way around, like a 60-year-old woman with a 20-year-old toy boy, that's no problem. Go girl. I thought these guys wanted equality. Where's the equality? It's equality for some, not for everyone. We've had equality for fucking thousands of years. It's all fucking done. Sorry, I'm just joking. So yeah, so the response would be, well, women can have 60-year-old woman can have a 20-year-old toy boy. What's wrong with that? Yeah, they can. But they're barren. There's nothing. From a human point of view, like you want to have your pleasure and everything, fine. There's no problem there. But I'm just saying, I'm talking about your friend, Mother Nature. Mother Nature created this situation, this system, that when she gets to about 40, she can't bear children anymore. Whereas men can bear children till about 100 or whatever. Their seminal fluid doesn't really dry up. It keeps being reproduced all the time. And so, technically, an older man, if he can get it up, put an injection of sand and cement or something, some kind of scaffolding. But if he can like inseminate. Sorry, I have to stop using these words. But he can help with the creation of the next generation, whereas women can't. So it's natural. It's biologically, it's a natural thing that a man he can continue to spread his seed and inseminate younger women. He can't inseminate an older woman, can he? So when you're talking about but an older woman can still have some fun with a tomboy. What's wrong with that? Even 15 years old. Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and nobody will say anything. I tell you, no one will say anything. A 15-year-old boy, right, or 16-year-old, as soon as a person gets to the legal age, and a 60, 70-year-old clapped out or banger woman who's rich, and like, nobody will say, I guarantee no one will say anything. What's wrong with that? But if it's the other way around, like a 16-year-old girl and a 60, 70-year-old clapped out or banger man did that, he'd be called a pervert. It's guaranteed. And you know the reason why? Because the male-female relationship, the way it is, I know it sounds really brutal, but everybody knows. It's like, it's something that everybody knows. It's not spoken about, but everybody knows. The man is the one that's doing the, I can't bloody say it. There's a famous philosopher, what's his name? Oliver Reed. He was on a program called After Dark, and this was amazing, this program on Channel 4. They put him on there on purpose, He was pissed, he was drunk, and they put him there with a lesbian, a lesbian, and a lefty bloke, some philosopher, no, psychologist, and how do you call it? He's a journalist as well. They did it on purpose. They set him up, right? They had to keep stopping this program. There was an interval there. He was swearing. But he said it right. I mean, when I heard it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they were showing this on TV. It was live. They had to stop the program. But this moment was like, I don't know if you can find it on YouTube. It was brutal, really brutal. They were talking about women going to the Iraq war and women being on the front line. Obviously, he's going to say no. He's going to say it's a bad idea. But they were arguing about, men and the women. He was trying to kiss on the cheek the feminist woman, and she was so angry, upset. Anyway, at one point he said something, and they had to shut down the program. They had to put, they do the music interval. What he said ties into what I'm saying. He said, no. Women are the receivers. They're the ones that are the F word, the F bomb. But if you think about it, you've got a socket here, and you've got an empty hole here. And then you've got like the plug. The plug goes into the hole. So this is the male and this is the female. One receives and one gives, it is put inside, right? So he was saying, like, women are the receivers. They're the ones that receive, like they're the yin and the man is the yang. So they're the powerful ones, and they're the weak ones, or the ones that receive. But the way he said it, women are the receivers. They're the ones that are. I'm not going to say it, right, for the respect of my women, my lady subscribers. I wouldn't say that. But if you think about it, that's the reason why. Let's say the age of consent is 15 or 16. Let's say 16, okay? And a 60-year-old woman can have sex with a 16-year-old boy. If he's up for it, he says, I love her, I want her, no one would say anything. Or not many people would say anything. Some will say something. Why? Because she's the receiver. She's the older person and she's receiving. So he's the one doing the act, really, right? The physical act on her. But when it's the other way around, when a 16-year-old girl and a 60, 70-year-old man, oh, I love him, I want to be with him. She's the receiver, and he does the giving. Sorry, I have to show it to you, right? The dynamics change. We're all equal. We're not all equal. There's no equality. So the 60, 70-year-old man is doing the deed, right? And she's receptive. She's the one that's taking his love or whatever. When it's the other way around, the 60-year-old woman is the receiver and he's the one doing it, So it's more kind of acceptable in your mind, in people's minds. So I do understand that, but when people talk about equality, they fail to realize there is no equality. There is the hierarchy, there is yin and yang. So in this example, if you really think about it, there is no equality. If things were equal, right, a 60-year-old or 70-year-old woman with a 16-year-old boy would feel the same in your mind, but it's not the same. And it's because, what that philosopher said, Oliver Reed, look him up. You guys, British guys, probably, you guys, English guys know him. If you grew up in the 70s. But I mean, what he said was brutal. I would never say that. I've only heard it once when he said it. But it made me think, oh wow, but it's true, isn't it? when you think of a socket, the female is the one on the wall and the male is the plug. One is the receiver and one is the thing that goes inside the receiver. I'm not going to say the hole, but I'm sorry. Anyway, one is the receiver and one is the, yeah. That's what happens when you, I have to cut these things. When it's live, when it's one take, I'm going to get in trouble. You see, that would have been cut out and you would have seen a different me, a more polite me. But this is the real me. I make mistakes. I don't cut anything out. So, I don't know what the hell I was talking about. Rambling on. Yeah, about a woman. Yeah, so about evolution, right? Evolution, whether you agree with it or not, evolution or Mother Nature fixed us, so, put us in this situation where older men can still be with a younger woman, but it's not just for pleasure. It's actually for a practical reason to go forth and multiply. It actually works, so the man still sexually can function and has a reason to be in the gene pool, whereas women, maybe they don't have a reason to be in the gene pool. They're, and I'm not saying this for myself. I'm not. Of course, women have a reason to live, but there's a theory that, once your purpose is over, then aging happens. So, for example, once you past sexual maturity, then aging happens. Your body clock starts ticking away. If you think about it, women start aging like after menopause. They go really downhill because they don't have they start having problems with hormones and things. But so do men. But why do men in the past have lived, women always live longer than men? Maybe that statistic will change. Maybe it's because men used to go out to work and women used to stay at home, and those statistics were old because it takes a long time, because those stats take a long time, it's a whole lifetime to make up those stats. So maybe now, because of women in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, they go out to work and they have much more stress, much more responsibility than they used to. No, I mean, they had a lot of stress and responsibility looking after kids, of course, but they didn't have to endure the workplace, whereas men had to. And maybe they just didn't have to endure the responsibility of paying bills and everything, because women are emancipated. They're independent women now. So yeah, so maybe those figures will change. I always thought, like, I don't know. I wonder why women live longer. Is it because they have periods? What the hell are you talking about, Gerald? Well, if you think about it, women have periods, right? Every month they lose loads of eggs, in their menstrual fluid, menstrual cycle or whatever, the period. And in traditional Chinese medicine, or anyway, the Chinese philosophy, your generative fluid or your sexual fluid is really important. So men who leak their seed constantly, especially when you're young, a young boy, you'll leak your seed a few times a day. As you get older, as your under eyes get darker, you'll be you'll be leaking maybe once every 2 days, once a week, once every few, 60s, 70s, you just about get it up. But anyway, you would leak it less and less. And they say by overdoing this, by losing your seminal fluid or generative fluid, you you live a shorter life. It takes away from your life. So if you think about it, women, this fluid that they, generative fluid, the eggs or whatever, they lose them just once a month. But men lose it every day. Whether you use your imagination, magazines or internet or whatever, men are constantly losing it. So, and women only lose it once a month. And then when they have their menopause, they stop losing it. Whereas men can bloody continuously, they, after 40, 50, 60, they continuously can lose this generative fluid or whatever. So it's good for nature because they can still procreate, but it's not good for men because they shorten their lives. So I think that's one reason. Another reason, which is to do with menstrual fluids or whatever, is that women lose blood every month, and so their iron levels naturally are kept at a certain level, whereas men do have iron overload problems, and iron has been implicated. Problems with iron have been implicated in dementia and cancer. Mind you, more women get dementia than men. So that doesn't make sense, does it? Because if iron had anything to do with it, but hang on, but women, when they reach menopause, then they could have iron overload problems because they stop leaking blood. So they start suddenly accumulating. They could accumulate iron. Yeah, maybe. So that's a good thing for men to do, to actually give blood regularly to keep their iron levels low. Especially if you're eating lots of meat or doing carnivore, or then I think it's a good idea to get a few leeches and to suck your blood, or get rid of blood, so to reduce your iron levels. That's what I want to do, because iron overload is real. There's a disease, genital, not genital disease, congenital. Anyway, there's I think is it rare? But it's a disease where, what's it called? Hemochromatosis, where we naturally, I think, accumulate iron. So this is why bloodletting is good, or phlebotomy, or something. Giving blood is really good for men. Women do this naturally until they reach 40 or 50, and then they could be in trouble as well. Because in cases of hemochromatosis, and you won't know, sometimes you don't know until your organs are damaged, because iron store up in the liver, brain, kidneys, in various organs, and they scar, and then you're in big trouble. And you can see that your skin is kind of bronze, when you're accumulating iron, or when you've accumulated. So it's good to check these things, because it's a silent disease. And once your kidneys, liver, or brain are scarred, or you're in big trouble, and your life, it's going to affect your life expectancy, right? So I think normal people, I think, I might be wrong about the actual numbers, but we accumulate or store 1 milligram a day. 1 milligram. Is it a microgram or milligram? Whereas people who have hemochromatosis, they can store or accumulate 4 milligrams a day. So could you imagine in a year the difference? And after a decade, after 2 decades, you're in trouble. So, yeah, so maybe it's all maybe interrelated. The sexual fluid and iron, and maybe other compounds or whatever are involved. I'll have to think more about it. I don't know. So there's my little talk. My little talk is 30 minutes. Sorry, guys. I have to try and make it less, because when people see it's a 30-minute video, that's it. They're gone. So I have to try and attract more people so I can pay for my bills. Or pay for the doggies' bills. So that's my talk for today. And hopefully you guys are well. Hopefully it's nice and sunny wherever you are, or at least not gloomy and rainy. I like the rain. Okay, well, if you like the rain, I hope the weather satisfies you wherever you are. All right. Speak to you later. Take care. Bye.